9 Cameroonian companies have been ranked in a listing by the French Pan-African magazine Jeune Afrique on the continent's top 500 companies. The National Hydrocarbons Corporation is the first Cameroonian company in the list with the 89th position it occupies. Tonight we look at what this ranking reflects as far as the country's economic stand on the African continent. That's our lone headline. Good evening and thanks for joining us. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on STV. Members of the Parliamentary Network for the Diaspora and Decentralized Cross-Border Cooperation have been urged to serve as a veritable platform for development between government and the private sector. The call was made during a parliamentary forum today in Yaoundé on the network led by Louis-Henri Ngacha on the theme Diaspora and Assets for Development. The minister delegate at the Ministry of External Relations in charge of the Commonwealth has saluted the initiative, promising to ensure that the network makes the diaspora a veritable force for development in Cameroon. Just as we mentioned in the headlines, 9 Cameroonian companies have been ranked amongst Africa's best 500 companies. This is contained in a publication from the French Pan-African magazine Jeune Afrique. Catherine Kone tells us that the National Hydrocarbons Corporation is the first Cameroonian company occupying the 89th position.
The Pan-African magazine Jeune Afrique for the month of July 2020 published the top 500 of the best African companies of the year. These were classified according to their turnover and their net result. Amongst them includes 9 Cameroonian companies like the National Hydrocarbons Corporation, which occupies the 89th position with a turnover of 918.2 billion francs CFA and a net income of more than 434 billion francs CFA. It is followed by the National Refining Company Sonora, taking the 129th position with a turnover of about 141.26 billion francs CFA. Brazzaville, the Cameroon, coming at the 3rd position with a revenue of about 351.3 billion and a net profit of 26 billion francs CFA. At the 254th position in this ranking by Jeune Afrique comes the Electricity Distribution Company NEO with 303 billion francs CFA in turnover and 17 billion francs CFA in their net income. 21 places further on are Tradex in the 275th position, having a turnover of more than 258 billion francs and 9 billion as revenue. The Social Security Fund CMPS is ranked 330th position on the African level with a turnover of more than 360 billion and net result of 75.56 billion francs CFA. The last 3rd places in the ranking of the Cameroonian companies includes MTN and Orange Cameroon respectively at the 351st position and 358 ranks of the top 500. The Cotton Development Company, Sodi Cotton, which occupies the last of the 9 Cameroonian companies, has a turnover of more than 142 billion francs CFA. It should be noted that according to Jeune Afrique, these companies are the ones that provided their data.
Now, the ranking by Jeune Afrique of the continent's 500 companies shows that Cameroon, with just 9 companies, still has a long way to go as far as economic resilience and stability is concerned on the African continent. Our reporter Catherine Kone caught up with an economist who weighs in on what this classification reflects for Cameroon's economy. Her report.
Following the ranking of 9 Cameroonian companies among the 500 best African companies by the Pan-African magazine Jeune Afrique for the year 2020, an economist says,
Notice that out of the 500 companies ranking by Jeune Afrique Economy, we have less than 5% of our companies among all those who are in that palmarès. This can mean that our economy is not too tough. And when you look forward, you will see that most of all the companies who are top ranking there are belonging to the oil sector. And as far as the oil sector is concerned in Africa, Cameroon is a small producer. For instance, a country like Nigeria, their 1 month's production is above our yearly production. A country like Angola, their 1 month production is highly above our yearly production. And finally, our neighbor country, Nigeria, for instance, their 4-week production is more than our yearly production as far as oil is concerned, notably crude oil is concerned. It means that if we had up till 9 companies among the 500 of ranking companies carry out, that presentation has been carried out by our Jeune Afrique economy. We cannot think that our economy is down.
NAO occupying the 254th positions in the ranking. To The Economist,
yeah, NAO deserves to be in that classification. First of all, you know, the government of Cameroon has sold 56% of its share in formerly called Sonel, National Electricity Company, to IS. And then in 2012, those guys sold the full 56% of share to NAO. And since then, let's say around 2014, NAO have given 5% of that share to its workers. And actually, they have only 51% of the share. And 44 belong to the Cameroonian government and 5% to all the personnel who are working there. Or as far as all those who are working there are Cameroonian. Moreover, even the dam, Mbakao Dam, Mape Dam, Bamenji Dam is in Cameroon. You go to Lato Dam is in Cameroon. Edea, Sonlulu in Cameroon. Lompanga in Cameroon. As far as all those infrastructure belongs to Cameroonians, and those who are working there are Cameroonians detaining close to 49% of the share. According to me, NAO deserves deeply to belong to that classification.
these 9 companies include the National Hydrocarbons Corporation, the National Refining Company Sonara, NAO, CMPS, MTN Orange Cameroon, the Cotton Development Corporation Company, Sodi Cotton, amongst others. The classifications were made following their turnover and their net result.
It's been 4 months since COVID-19 was detected in Cameroon. Just to note that the first case was detected on the 7th of March 2020. Since then, the pandemic has induced new behavioral patterns triggered by the respect of barrier measures, with the country already having more than 13,000 cases. Details in the following report.
Social distancing, wearing of face mask, washing of hands with clean water and soap regularly, the use of hydroalcoholic solutions, salutations with the elbow or the legs are some of the new habits practiced by the population since the coronavirus outbreak in Cameroon in March 2020. 4 months struggling to keep the virus at bay, these habits have become a routine in the lives of the population, as mentioned by the citizens. It's now into our habit of not embracing each other like before. We greet with the elbow, and one habit really dominant with me is the washing of hands, as I love doing it. I can't go for 2 minutes without washing my hands. The washing of hands, the use of hydroalcoholic solution, social distancing, and the wearing of face mask when I leave the premises of my home is a habit which is embedded in me. And I always carry with me a hydroalcoholic solution when I step out for shop. The outbreak of the coronavirus has changed a lot in our hygiene mentalities. Before, it was not common to find wash hand points on the streets like we find today. And this is a positive aspect that came along with this virus. With these revived hygiene practices imposed on the population by the outbreak of the coronavirus, some citizens still remain indifferent to this habit. With over 14,916 coronavirus infected cases in Cameroon, one thing remains inevitable: the strict respect of all the barrier measures put in place by the government, a must practice to curb the spread of the virus.
Ophthalmologists say there's a disturbing increase in the number of cases of eye complications in the economic capital, Douala. They are blaming the situation on excessive exposure to mobile phones, computers, and other electronic devices. Katrin Kone caught up with a medic and compiled this report.
Despite its assistance in the execution of our jobs and communication with friends and family, excessive exposure to mobile phones and computers appears to be affecting the visuals of most users. This follows the massive consultation recorded these days in the eye unit of some hospitals in the city of Douala.
We noticed that the visual needs of patients has increased tremendously. In the past, our parents didn't used to need to look at phones, to look at messages. Now they have to look at their phones, their messages. So that's it. We see that they come to hospital complaining about all those things. So
he says the disturbing situation can be prevented if...
Yes, these diseases are what we call, they cause preventable forms of blindness. Like cataract, for example, is a curable cause of blindness. After surgery, the patient gets, the vision is revised and he sees well. Refraction, if a patient has a refractive error, a patient who was not seeing very well, after being prescribed the glasses, the vision improves, and that's almost like preventing the patient from going blind. Then there are also other childhood diseases like measles, rubella, toxo. These are preventable forms of blindness that when you go to, antenatal, when the mothers have their vaccines during the antenatal clinics and the postnatal clinics, this help to prevent the children from getting all these diseases. And vitamin A too is also very important because it prevents vitamin A diseases that cause blindness, like measles too. So.
However, individuals have been advised to use medicated glasses in order to prevent other eye pathologies.
Traders at the poultry section of the New Daido market are decrying the filthy nature of that part of the market, a situation which is raising fears of the propagation of waterborne diseases as well as COVID-19. Speaking to the hygiene and sanitation team of the Douala City Council, they have called for the institution of law and order to keep the market clean. Christel Asexuele reports.
The traders of the poultry section of the New Daido market in the Douala 1 district cry out to the authorities on the state of filth that prevails in their sector. There is so much filth around here, especially when it rains. We sometimes tramp our feet inside these running waters to deliver our clients' foodstuff. We are begging on the authorities to make the place comfortable for us. This cry was made during the mixed team from the Delegation of Public Health and Douala Municipal Council stopover at the market to sensitize the traders on the practices of hygiene and sanitation here. The traders, however, took this as an opportunity to lay out the challenges they face while carrying out their activities in this market. Our wish is that the new team in charge of the Douala Municipal Council should come up with strategies to put order and revive this market. The campaign team called on the traders to start by cleaning their environment while hoping for the authorities to do their own part.
The heavy rains in the economic capital has also influenced the way inhabitants of the city use the transport system. While others maintain the use of commercial motorbikes, others have shifted to taxis in a bid not to get wet when the rain falls. Josephine Beze sought to know from some inhabitants their new means of transportation during the rainy season in Douala. Her report.
Making a perfect choice as to the best mode of transport this season may be more difficult than before, as the rains have continued to threaten smooth mobility in the economic capital. Some prefer boarding a taxi for comfort and shield against the rains.
I take a taxi because taxi is safer. With the rain, I have no risk to be wet. So when I'm leaving from one end to the other, I use the taxi.
During the rainy season, it's preferable to get a taxi. You don't get wet in a taxi, and you are much covered. So if I'm not going out with my car, I prefer a taxi. While a taxi can be very comfortable, as some say, others are more comfortable with commercial bikes as they can arrive their desired destination on time.
In Douala, we don't have people don't respect traffic lights. So in the situation we have where there's a traffic jam, and I'm very time conscious. So at times when I get into the taxi, apart from the discomfort of sitting with many other people and not the people who don't know how to respect other people's private space, I prefer a bike because a bike is faster and then I enjoy some level of privacy. Although there's a little element of risk, but I'm ready to accommodate it.
Boarding these bikes now is more dangerous, as some explain the fallout. Bikes are very risky, and I see it to be more expensive, especially now that it rains. A taxi covers you, and some accidents can be avoided if you take just taxis. While the city of Douala remains a very busy city with hundreds of business transactions taking place per second, it is imperative for city dwellers to understand the risk factors of each transport mode and stick to what doesn't expose them to danger.
Despite a recent surge in coronavirus cases in the United States, we are out of the country. U.S. President Donald Trump continues its push for schools to reopen for what it says is the holistic health of the nation. We have more with the VOA.
In the state of New Hampshire, a school using ski lifts for a graduation ceremony to help maintain social distancing. Just one of the creative measures American schools have taken during the pandemic. But beyond pomp and circumstance, American schools may soon reopen for a new school year. President Trump is demanding that it happen on time in August or September.
We're very much going to put pressure on governors and everybody else to open the schools.
Schools are part of the president's larger plan to resume normal economic function as he eyes his re-election bid in November. Children back in school would allow parents to go back to their workplaces. The more than 50 million children who attend school in the U.S. did so online after the pandemic hit and before their summer vacations. The American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended they return to school in some form to keep them from falling behind, a recommendation supported by infectious disease experts.
I think most of us agree that we have to open up our schools again this fall, but we'll see exactly how to do it. Doing it carefully is very important.
But according to a research by the American Enterprise Institute, only 20% of parents feel safe sending their children back to a school building. Republican parents are twice.
Sports football. The readiness of Garoua for the 2022 African Cup of Nations has been assessed today at a meeting chaired by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph Diongote in Yaoundé. Presentations were made by the Ministers of Tourism on the state of hotels, the Minister of Sports and Physical Education on the playing grounds, as well as the Minister of Public Health on the state of hospital facilities. The Head of Government has urged stakeholders to put all hands on deck to guarantee a hitch-free organization of the competition in Garoua. And the cancellation of the Female African Cup of Nations by the Confederation of African Football (CAF) due to COVID-19 has left a bitter pill in the mouth of some female football players on the African continent. They say that such a move downplays the development of female football in Africa. Christelle Aswek-Swele with the details.
There is always a victim in history, and that of June 30, 2020 is the next African Cup of Nations for women. CAN 2020, which has been cancelled by the African Football Confederation's CAF. While the two main male competitions of the continent planned in Cameroon have been postponed this due to the outbreak of the coronavirus health crisis faced by the world. This decision didn't sit in well with the female footballers who poured out their anger after the release of this decision. The Nigerian female striker Asisa Ashola, in a statement, says this decision is not the best for the African female football and invites the CAF to go back to its initial intentions of making African female football one of its priorities, she states. We can't move 5 steps forward and later on move 10 steps backwards. This annulment of this competition won't be useful as the players will face 2 to 3 years without competing on or before the Female World Cup tournament at the Nigerian striker. She is yet to understand why other competitions were postponed and the Female African Cup cancelled. Should Ajara, the Cameroonian female striker, also takes on her social media handles and affirms that this decision will be a big setback to her young colleagues who also aspire to take part in such a tournament. She goes on to congratulate the CAF for creating the Females Champions League come 2021. Abudi Ongene, the Cameroonian female football captain, does not hide her indignation and states, "This is going to be a big blow to the African female football," this in a media outing. The CAF boss on his part, Ahmad, in an interview granted to RFE, states, "This is a strong message for African women."
Décision importante, je pense.
That does it for the Primetime Newscast on STV. Thank you very much for watching. More news will be your way at 8 p.m. in the French language from the entire news and production team in Douala. Have a good day.